Hey, Lori. Okay, so in progress of making some revisions after some inspiration with my webpage. So there are some consistency issues I'm aware of and working, but I don't know what you're aware of in terms of consistency issues. So please forgive me if I mention something that you're already aware of. So I'll just go through as if I'm as if I'm just starting from the top, fresh. Okay, all right, and that's what we'll do. So let's go ahead. I've got your work open. And let's go ahead and get these separated so we can take a look. Well, let's start with the business card. Okay, where'd that go? There it is right there. Okay, business card. Um, so right now I'm seeing that the none of the pieces are complete. You've got a lot of placeholder text, website, email, at me. You want to get your type in place here. I mean, I would say quickly here because these need to be. We're turning in your final package, your final branding suite next week. So I would say that any attempt you can make to get this near completion as possible this week will eliminate any problems and open up some time for you should we need to make additional edits next week before your final submission. Okay, so I highly recommend that all of your pieces have about me blurb. Write that in there. We got to see it. Everything's got to be in place here. Okay, really important. And we see that also in the letterhead where you have just address, just placeholder text. Okay, so I'm going to bring that down inside so we can get a better look at that when the time comes. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the business card itself. So right now, the business card, you've got this gray background on all of your branding materials, and I don't recommend doing that because the reason is you if you just use a white background, I mean, and is gray part of your branding? It doesn't seem so because you've just got that little circle of gray inside the camera. Um, but I don't recommend this gray right here, and the reason being is because it's just going to cost. It's going to create extra cost. I mean, it doesn't really serve any functional purpose. I think white would be much cleaner. And it would eliminate having to have this stroke right here. The stroke creates this border. That's problematic production-wise in a business card because if these things aren't trimmed perfectly, you're going to have uneven borders. That's something that is basic to business card design. And also, if you're going to bleed this, you have to bleed it all the way. Right now, we can see little slivers of white behind that color bar. Okay, so you definitely want to let's get that settled away, squared away, and I'd like to see that. I'd like to see you get that live text in there. And I wouldn't mind seeing you do this and resubmitting this week so that we can start moving in the direction towards completion. Okay. Right now, I think the logo is a little bit too small in the business card. I also think that the size of the type in relationship to the logo is really small. I would definitely increase the size of that type right there because right now, as we can see in a business card, it's almost impossible to read. And that's your lifeblood right there. That's the ground floor of your branding suite is your logo. So I would definitely recommend increasing the size there. And okay, that cover. Do you plan on designing the back of the business card? Let me know if you do. Okay, as far as information, the following elements should be included: your logo, your name, your address. Mailing address is optional but recommended. You want your telephone, fax, and or cell phone. You want your email address, definitely. You want your job title, definitely. You want your web page URL, absolutely. And then your LinkedIn page, if applicable, or whatever, a link to whatever your social media is that you're going to be setting up during week 6. Okay, let's jump over to the letterhead. Okay, right now the letterhead, and I'm going to bring the business card up too, but I'm going to bring that window down a little bit so we can kind of look at both. As we can see, a little bit of inconsistency in branding here because this little tiny thin bar has been kind of skewed. It's been squished. So we're not seeing the same kind of visual elements here that we're seeing here. Okay, and also you're not bleeding off the top of the page, so you got that little sliver right there. Also, the gray background, I don't recommend that for a letterhead. I recommend this on pure white. It'll save you some money. It'll also be a little bit easier to read type on a white background than a gray background. Okay, information to include on the letterhead: your name, your logo, your return address is a must. Your telephone, fax, and or cell phone. And then, of course, your email address and your web page URL, as well as the social media, if applicable. Okay, that leaves us with the leave behind piece, which is the trifold brochure. So I'm going to reduce the size here a little bit. But again, the main thing is to get everything in place, okay? One thing I'm noticing on your business card that we're not using anywhere else, and this is going to point to consistency, but you see this big K right here? We see it on your business card, but we don't see it on the letterhead anywhere. We don't see it on the branding anywhere. That points to inconsistency. Typically in graphic design, if you're only using something in once, either, oh, wait a second, I see it. It's right there. Okay, really, really hard to see there. And then over here on the letterhead, it's not on the letterhead. But if you're not going to use something consistently as a design element, either start using it consistently or get rid of it. So make that decision there in. Okay. So we got the trifold brochure. Now I want to take a look at this second page of the trifold brochure because this I see some issues here. Right now, the second page of the trifold brochure is showing. This image right here has been distorted. Clearly see it's been distorted. Everybody looks like they're really short and really wide. So that points to a resizing issue. Typically, when you place something in Illustrator and resize it, we know that you select it, grab the corner bounding box, and stretch it with your cursor, right? But sometimes, sometimes it won't maintain or constrain the original aspect ratio, the original proportion. So when you resize it, hold your Shift key down. This is the Amethyst Bay ad, and I teach this class quite often, and I happen to know that ad is 8.5 by 11, which is not, this isn't indicated. This is almost a square format. So be sure that all the placed items in the trifold brochure are true to scale. Okay, they might not be the same original size, but they have got to indicate the original scale. Okay, so also on the leave behind, you definitely want to include the following information on the leave behind: your name, your logo, your job title, your telephone, fax, and or cell, your mailing address, your email address, and your personal website URL, and then of course any information regarding your social media. Okay, so most important thing at this point is to let's get all the type in place here. And think about removing that gray background. Think about consistency that I mentioned, and I would like to see you reformat your package and resubmit before next week, if you want. It's not required, but I definitely want to see those changes reflected. So if you have any questions at this point at all, please let me know. I'll be glad to. Whoops, where am I? Here, sorry. Yeah, I'll be glad to address any questions or comments or concerns. So please let me know if any of that comes up. I'll be glad to address that. All right, great. Thank you very much, Lori.